What the f is wrong with eating humans? Alright, let's get into it.
Imagine walking into a pretentious, modern fine dining restaurant in New York's East Village. A stoic host
Two problems. Fine dining, out of there. New York, out of there. Alright.
leads you to a minimalist seated counter that overlooks an open kitchen. The dish that has everybody talking this season? Ouroboros steak. 40-day dry age served with a roasted bone broth reduction, cortical emulsion, hibiscus and beet jelly, and seasonal greens.
Yeah,
But what makes this dish so...
This is the thing. Just like certain lower tax brackets would not allow you to live a lifestyle that the lower tax bracket lives, eating certain lower income meals, spam, mayonnaise sandwiches, shit like that, the same way there may be turnoffs of a lower living lifestyle, the same applies to a rich lifestyle. I didn't understand a word that she just said. I didn't understand shit that she just said that was on the menu for the night. So I'm not eating any of it. Both extremes exist, and I'm not indulging in either of them. What did she say?
Bone broth reduction. 40-day dry age served with a roasted bone broth reduction, cortical emulsion, hibiscus.
Cortical emulsion? That sounds like a fucking factory disaster. Everyone beware, we have to go into protocol. There's cortical emulsion. Everybody take cover, follow protocol. There's cortical emulsion going on in the factory. I'm not eating that shit.
And beet jelly and seasonal greens. But what makes this dish so enticing? Well, it's the steak. Grown from cultured human muscle cells, bioengineered for a tender, marbled texture, with a deep, umami-rich flavor akin to Wagyu. Ethically cultured human steak.
Wagyu?
No one was killed, no one suffered, no risk of disease. Just a perfectly grown piece of human meat created with science. Would you eat it? Lab-grown human meat.
No, but if it tastes like Wagyu, I couldn't eat that shit. I couldn't eat it personally. But if you told me it tastes like Wagyu, my ears I would listen. I would listen to you if you told me it tastes like Wagyu. Wagyu is amazing.
It is nothing new. Scientists have been growing human skin in labs for decades, used to treat severe burns. In 2018, scientists successfully grew living human muscle tissue that can contract and respond like real muscles. And in 2019, scientists 3D printed a tiny human heart with working cells and blood vessels using bioink made from human cells. So we're already growing human parts in labs for other purposes. Why not food? Well, mainly because it's
I'm not gonna lie, there's a God. He's going to f us up for this shit. We're 3D printing hearts and making contracting human muscles. It's like, we're gonna get f***ed up. The rapture's coming, and I feel like, I don't know if he exists or not, but if he does, he don't like this shit.
So we're already growing human parts in labs for other purposes. Why not food? Well, mainly because it's too expensive.
Okay, I ain't gonna lie, I haven't given much thought to this question. Actually any thought to this question at all. But my knee-jerk reaction, like without thinking too much, is like, my thought would be like the introduction to cannibalism in regards to like lab-grown human steaks or whatever. It would begin to somewhat normalize the idea of ingesting human meat, and then potentially would open up a Pandora's box toward cannibalism, but not referring to lab-grown like humans, but like to actual humans. That's just my initial thought. Like, without much thought, I think cannibalism is a bad thing. I can't really tell you why outside of like it just being disgusting, but it is a gnarly thing to do. And even if I can't give a clear philosophical reasoning for it, for why cannibalism is bad, I will say I can look across other animal species and tell you that it is at least abnormal. You don't really see other animal species standardly like participating in cannibalism, I don't think, as part of their normal diets. I mean, you got like the praying mantises and like black widows, who are honestly just too entirely freaky to even be considered in this, and I would consider them crazy outliers. There are other animal species that do it, like, I think like fish eat their offspring or some shit like that, for like population control reasons, but I don't think this is standard across life, if you ask me. But I don't know. That's my ignorance talking. I have no idea.
It's really hard to do, and there's no demand for it. But other than that, is there anything wrong with eating human meat? The term Ouroboros steak actually comes from a conceptual project that hit headlines in 2020, marketed as a sort of grow your own meat kit Diners could culture their own meat blob out of cells from their own cheek. You know I love a
Yeah,
DIY
that's gross. I can't
opportunity. The project was
That's
meant to
disgusting.
highlight some of the key issues in the fast-growing cultured meat industry, like the use of fetal bovine serum. But most people just freaked out about the auto-cannibalism thing. Because when it comes to cannibalism, many of us are decidedly rigid. But why is that? Why does the thought of eating human meat, whether for survival or otherwise, gross us out so much? If cannibalism saved lives, would it be morally acceptable? And under what conditions could it even be ethical? Or in other words, what's wrong with eating humans?
Okay. I hope she gets into why it's unethical in the first place, so then we could like get into. Yeah, I think that's necessary to get into before we talk about is it necessary for, or if it's ethical for survival purposes. I don't know, I wonder what made her tackle this topic in the first place. This is an interesting thing to really dive into. I think it's one of those taboos like subjects that we don't really like really think about. Like to really want to dive into the psychology of cannibalism, I could see somebody getting like really curious and interested and being like, all right, I'm about to do like a lot of research on this because I can't even fathom the idea of wanting to eat another human being.
Human history is chock full of graphic stories of people eating each other. The oldest evidence dates back 100,000 years ago. Neanderthals in the Malagasy cave in France ate the brains, tongues, and thighs of their fellow Neanderthals. China has a long and very well
Neanderthals are some monstrous beings, and that's for another video. But I hope none of you look at the evidence of Neanderthalism and use that to justify any cannibalism that happens today. No, we are not Neanderthals. We are not Neanderthals. I'm sorry, we're far from it. Our ancestors do not justify what the fuck we got going on today. Do not eat each other.
Documented history of cannibalism that will be giving me nightmares forever. In the 7th century, Duke Huan says to his cook, "The only thing I have not tried is the steamed baby." Not only does his loyal cook...
That's the only thing you haven't tried? Everything else is off your bucket list. The steamed baby? What about the fried baby? Is that okay? My question is, has he had baby? Because he was very specific when he said steamed. So has he had fried baby, baked baby, broiled baby?
...of what he ordered, but the cook steamed his own baby. And at the end of the Sui dynasty, the cook steamed his own baby. And at the end of the Sui dynasty, China's wealthy were reportedly throwing very fancy dinner parties where they served exotic food, including human meat, to their dinner guests.
Human isn't exotic. Fucking human. I see if you said fucking multicolored peacock or some shit. That sounds exotic. Human is not an exotic food, and you will never convince me that it is. Oh fuck no. Okay. I ain't gonna lie. I guess an obvious reason we couldn't or we wouldn't want to eat people is because if somebody were to bring me a plate of human meat, and I know that it's human meat, I think like my natural inclination would be to ask, well, who the fuck is this? You know what I mean? Like who is this? You know what I mean? And we don't do that for animals because we don't know animals on the level of having community with them or personal relationships. So they're all just deer or beef or chicken, not fucking Andy on my plate. You know what I'm saying? But even if I ran an animal shelter and I knew, like, say I ran a dog shelter and I knew that we were eating the dogs from this fucking dog shelter, I would literally be sitting here asking, who is this? Which dog is on my plate? Because I'm in community with these dogs now and I've built relationships with these dogs. It's the same thing with humans. I don't even gotta know this human personally, but I'm still gonna ask, who is this? Because I can relate to a human experience, therefore I don't wanna eat another one of these because I value humans on another level than just an animal.
And wealthy people eating meat. And wealthy people eating suckling babies. There was also a lot of famine, perhaps the best excuse for eating your neighbors, although some people were still sentenced to death for it. Whether we like it or not, cannibalism has occurred on every livable continent, in every culture, and during every era of human history. In many cases, it was a last resort during times of famine or extreme survival situations. Other times, it's been a part of spiritual or cultural rituals, a way to honor the dead or ensure cosmic balance. Tibetan Buddhists, for example, ritualistically consumed pills made from deceased Brahmins, believing it would help them in attaining enlightenment.
Speaking as a cannibal myself.
What the fuck are we... Jesus Christ. What the fuck are you?
Speaking as a cannibal myself, I ate my wife's placenta. We've been doing it.
I should have known. I should have known. Look at your necklace piece. Who is that? Who is that? What religion is this? What are you wearing? What is on your fucking face?
Speaking as a cannibal myself, I ate my wife's placenta. We've been doing it as humans for like thousands of years. So any of my friends whose wives get pregnant, I go, hey, if you guys are gonna throw it out, I'll take it. So I have a freezer full of human placenta.
But cannibalism.
Some things need to be ridiculed universally. Listen, you're going to jail, first of all. No, fuck that. Matter of fact, hell. You're going to hell, okay? This is hell. This is hellish activity. And I know I'm about to disrespect your culture, and I'm sorry in advance, but you got shit all around your mouth, strikingly resembling blood. Talking about you have a freezer full of human placenta that you borrow from your friends. Who just so happen to not be using them and eat them. Hell, there's no coming back from that. He said people been doing it for thousands of years. It's like, yo, holy shit, bro. That's one thing about this generation that I'm kind of proud of. We reject customs sometimes that sound a little weird. Like we're able to zoom out and reject certain traditions and customs that just don't seem right. And I feel like this is one of them that needs to be zoomed out and looked at from a distant lens. I digress. It's not my culture, and I'm not doing that shit. So
occurs in a.
Hey, if you guys are gonna throw it out, I'll take it. So I have a freezer full of human placenta.
But cannibalism occurs in a variety of other contexts as well. Certain cultures have been known to engage in exo-cannibalism, or eating your enemies. This was done for different reasons, sometimes as a way of asserting dominance, absorbing the power of their enemies, or because they believed that it would prevent the spirit from seeking revenge. Modern day.
I ain't gonna lie, like I kind of understand those, like actually, because it's barbaric, like in a warfare sense. It's not right, of course, but the same way that like during war men would like assault the women of whatever side they defeated. Very barbaric, very terrible. But this is a remnant of that. And not gonna lie, eating the body of your enemy as a way of like making sure their spirit doesn't haunt them is a cool idea, in my opinion. Hate to say it, but in a spiritual sense, this is a decent reasoning for ever engaging in cannibalism. To me, at least. There's no real good reason to involving yourself with cannibalism, but you know. If I had to pick one, this is a winner so far.
Examples of cannibalism that it would prevent the spirit from seeking revenge. Modern day examples of cannibalism are often about criminal or psychopathic cannibalism. The horrible things done by serial killers, sadists, and generally mentally unstable individuals. Like the Italian lady who killed 3 women, turned their bodies into tea cakes, and served and ate them with her friends and family, who had no idea what they were eating. Motivations vary from power to pleasure or compulsion. Or in the case of Leonardo Cianciulli, she believed that it would prevent her son from dying at war. And just looking at the sheer quantity of true crime media that...
Spirituality is dangerous. Superstitions are dangerous. That's all I'm gonna say. I have no elaboration. After what I just heard, yeah.
That's produced about these people, it's clear that we are fascinated by criminal cannibals. If you clicked on this video, then I'm pretty sure you understand what I mean when I say that while I understand the horrific nature of these crimes and sympathize with the people who were affected by these events, I also just can't help being completely drawn to these stories. It's a sick fascination. I don't know why I'm like this.
I think it's just so taboo that you're just more curious than anything. It's not like you're interested in... I mean, when I say interested, I mean like interested in partaking and nothing like that. I don't think you're sick for being curious or interested in the idea of cannibalism. You know what I mean? That doesn't make you any closer to becoming a cannibal. It just means like you're so curious about it because it's something that's so like, no, we don't do that. No, that's disgusting. No. It's like, okay, why though? Like really, why? Why not? Because I feel like if you went and asked 100 people why cannibalism is wrong, why cannibalism is bad, you'll get the same kind of like surface level response of like, that's disgusting, that's nasty, we're not supposed to do that. But if you keep asking these people why, you'll eventually get you'll get circular answers, and they won't be able to really dive into why it's nasty, why it shouldn't occur. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think it's a good question to ask. I don't think it's weird. I don't think it's a weird thing to want to dive into.
People go even further than just binging Monster on Netflix. Jeffrey Dahmer had thousands of letters written to him while he was in jail, and even today is still admired, even loved by fans. Not fans of his work necessarily, but people.
His work? Even that's dangerous. His work. That wasn't fucking work. That wasn't work. That wasn't creative. That wasn't art. Shit didn't make money. Nigga ate. He ate. If you consider eating work, then I work every fucking day. I just got done working. I work every day, all day. Just because I don't eat human heads, now my work isn't as valuable? That's bullshit.
People love him. Women love him. Cannibalism adds a whole new level to serial fans. Not fans of his work necessarily, but people love him. Women love him. Cannibalism adds a whole new level to serial killers that we just want so badly to understand. And then there's the gray matter. Medical or...
The amount of love that Jeffrey Dahmer gets is kind of sickening. It's like very embarrassing. I'm not gonna lie. He was like the most dressed up costume of like 20... whatever year that his biopic that the Netflix show came out, that was like the top Halloween costume that year. I'm like, this shit is embarrassing, bro.
Medicinal cannibalism has existed for centuries. King Charles II took a king's drop potion made from human skulls, thought to preserve life essence and cure ailments. Roman physicians prescribed gladiator.
I will say this, as much as like I'm like not criticizing, but just like joking about like spiritual reasonings for doing bullshit. I will say like without the advent of certain researchers and technologies that we have today, it did make sense that people depended on spirituality a lot more back in the day. Like I guess there wasn't anything factual to tell you that drinking a human skull potion would be pointless and gross. You just kind of just formed a hypothesis and you just went with it. There's nothing proven to tell you no. You can't argue with someone's spirituality, especially if you don't have strong science to back it up.
Blood for epilepsy. And rooted in Confucian thought, Chinese children who offered their own flesh to their sick or dying parents were praised for their loyalty. Medicinal cannibalism is also why we don't have as many mummies as we're supposed to. Because over several centuries, thousands of Egyptian mummies were dug up, ground up, and sold as medicine called mumia. The laws surrounding cannibalism have never been that straightforward. At certain times during European history, cannibals were charged with lycanthropy, like Giles Garner, who was convicted of being a werewolf for the murder of at least 4.
Lycanthropy. What is lycanthropy? Lycanthropy, a condition that means the magical or physical change of a person to a wolf or mental illness where a person thinks they are an animal. I would definitely say that is a mental illness. I do not disagree.
At certain times during European history, cannibals were charged with lycanthropy, like Giles Garner, who was convicted of being a werewolf for the murder of at least 4 children. In 1884, a legal precedent...
I would say his ass is a werewolf too. 4 children you ate? I would have no other explanation other than his ass is a werewolf. He has to be a fucking werewolf.
...was said when 2 of the 3 survivors of the Mignonette were found guilty of murder for killing and eating a 17-year-old cabin boy while stranded at sea. Surprisingly,
stranded at sea is the key there. That's the thing that makes this less weird than other situations like the werewolf, but you know, still strange.
today, most countries don't have explicit anti-cannibalism laws, but many do have laws against defiling or indecently interfering with human remains. In the UK, the Human Tissue Act makes it illegal to possess human tissue without appropriate consent. And just as I'm recording this, an Australian woman has been sentenced to an 18-month community corrections order after she found a dead man's toes in a bin, which she was going to sell online for $400.
What? So you found a human dead man toes and your first thought wasn't to report the toes or to even just leave it and act like you didn't see it, but to pick them bitches up and sell them for $245. Holy shit, that's not even enough. You must have fallen on hard times. $245?
$400. Who's buying toes? Someone's buying toes. Of course, anytime we look at a subject that's taboo, you're automatically going to find some freaky sex stuff. Sexual or fetishistic cannibalism includes the sexual desire to eat or be eaten, also known as vorophilia.
Yeah, that's extremely problematic. A paraphilia and a fetish involving the devouring of or being devoured by another person or creature, whether alive or whole, or with gore or killing. Okay, I gotta say this. I'm sorry to say this, but the desire to be eaten, the desire to eat humans, and the desire to be eaten by humans are two different fetishes, and I feel like deserve two different words. Like, these are not the same fetish. These should not both fall under vorophilia. The same way that we have sadism and masochism. Two different fetishes, two different words. Being eaten and eating are two different words. Being eaten is a whole nother kink and a phenomenon. Versus just eating. We eat regularly anyway. You're just eating something weird. Being eaten is a whole thing that no one ever experiences. As a human, we're not supposed to experience that. That's a whole nother fetish, a whole nother word.
Be eaten, also known as vorophilia. It's almost entirely a fictional fetish, although real-life cases do happen. Occasionally, someone will do something extra shocking to push the boundaries of morality, like the Japanese artist who cut off his genitals and served them at a high-end dinner event to consenting guests.
Hell.
What do we even call that? Perhaps it comes under the label gastronomic cannibalism, when people eat people not because they have to, but because they want to. We have many recorded statements documenting how delicious human flesh is, particularly that from children and women. Favorite parts are usually the palms of hands, soles of feet, and women's breasts.
Palms of hands and soles of feet cannot be that tasty. Like, if I had to choose on the menu which part of the human that I'd rather indulge in, it would never be the sole of a foot or the palm of a hand. Very non-meaty, if you ask me. This wouldn't do anything for me. Hands? Feet? Soles of feet? Yeah, no.
One notable study by archaeologist James Cole estimated that an average adult male human body contains approximately 126,000 kilocalories, which is a fair amount of calories, I guess.
Great for bulking. Great for bulking.
Flesh.
Non-flesh.
Kind of a gross word in itself, isn't it? Flesh comes up a lot in the Bible. Jesus was like, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you do not have life in yourselves. I hope we're not still taking the Bible literally. But we don't like to call it human meat, do we? We call it flesh because meat is how we refer to the animals that we eat. The non-human animals, of course. And funnily enough, they do cannibalism too. Lions, chimps, and even hamsters sometimes eat their own species. Sand tiger sharks eat each other in the womb, and praying mantises and black widow spiders engage in sexual cannibalism.
I didn't know all those other animals did, and that's actually more than I thought. But I feel like these are still rare instances. These aren't, like I said, these aren't part of the normal diet of these animals. Barring praying mantis and black widows, they are just, that's the freaky, them some freaky ass animals, bro.
The root of the term cannibal is derived from Canniba or Carib, the name bestowed upon the indigenous group known as Kalinago from the Lesser Antilles in the Caribbean. The term Carib was first recorded by Christopher Columbus, who is credited with introducing the word to Europe in 1492. In his diary,
based on history, he probably stole the fucking word too. Which he did. He did steal the word. Fuck him.
Columbus described the Cannibals, or the Caribs, as a warlike group who supposedly ate their captives. Spanish conquistadors exploring the area also used the term Caribs for indigenous groups they considered hostile, while Arawak, the enemies of the Kalinago, was the term for groups considered friendly. But who knows if these guys actually saw anyone engaging in real cannibalism. Unfortunately, it was common for European colonists to exaggerate or fabricate claims that the Caribs were cannibals to justify enslaving and exterminating them.
Yep. It tracks. Sounds very European to me. Very European to me.
The savage cannibal stereotype became a tool of colonial propaganda used to dehumanize indigenous peoples and rationalize conquest. They may have had a reputation among their enemies as warriors who ate roasted human flesh, but the Kalinago community believes this to be an offensive myth. We're all probably aware of Trump's repeated mentions of the fictional cannibal Hannibal Lecter.
Has anybody seen Silence of the Lambs? The late great Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal
The
Lecter.
late, great Hannibal Lecter. Correct me if I'm wrong. Hannibal Lecter's fake as fuck. No? And correct me if I'm wrong. Why is he talking about him like he's a dead celebrity or something? Like he's a dead wrestler. The late, great Hannibal Lecter. This man was a fictional cannibal. Why are we... Okay.
Did anybody ever hear of Hannibal Lecter? The young people didn't. Hannibal Lecter. Dr. Hannibal Lecter. The late great Hannibal Lecter.
Seems ridiculous, right? And everybody wants to know why Trump continues to bring it up. I've seen people saying they think Trump's just stuck in the 80s, with all his outdated references, music, and fat, ugly ties. Or that he's stupid. He's getting the actor, Anthony Hopkins, who played Hannibal Lecter, mixed up with John Ford, who was openly supportive of Trump.
You know why I like him? Because he said on television on one of the... I love Donald Trump, so I love him.
President Trump won't give up.
Some suggest that Trump struggles to differentiate between movies and real life, which may be true.
Is it possible the former guy straight up doesn't know that asylum has two meanings? When he hears about asylum seekers, he thinks asylum like insane asylum, like an insane asylum that Hannibal Lecter escaped from.
This is really our guy. Fuck that, that's y'all guy. I don't participate. I didn't vote for him. So, y'all pick this bullshit. The late, great Hannibal Lecter. Are you out of your fucking mind? Okay.
Maybe he's just doing it for attention, a viral moment, some comedic relief during his rallies, something to distract the media for a while. But then you see him say this.
They're emptying out their mental institutions into the United States, our beautiful country.
The problem with people jumping on...
Not to get political, because that's not the point of this video, so I'm not a political person to begin with, but he doesn't even have to be good at talking and communicating to his supporters or with his supporters. I'm not calling his supporters dumb. I'm just saying they'll go for anything. But I digress. Oh, whatever.
The viral moment and criticizing Trump for being so stupid he can't tell fiction from reality, or any of these other reasons. It's that it fails to recognize that Trump is making a purposeful link between asylum seekers and insane asylums.
Hannibal Lecter. He'd love to have you for dinner. That's insane asylums. They're emptying out their insane asylums. And terrorists are coming in at numbers that we've never seen before. Bad things are going to happen.
This is just another part of Trump's desire to turn the American people against immigrants. Like him or hate him, Trump is very good at communicating with his supporters.
I love the poorly educated.
And linking asylum seekers with the fictional cannibal,
He said that?
but also genius criminal Hannibal Lecter, is not a mistake. Trump's actions are consistent with a long-held practice of dehumanizing certain groups of people with the savage cannibal stereotype in order to justify aggression towards them. And if you ask his supporters, it seems like it's working.
We just got to stop them from coming in to save innocent lives.
What would solve the whole thing in the border if they would just start shooting? Only shoot a couple and they would go home.
But
you don't have to, that's what I'm saying. You don't need to be a wordsmith to communicate a message to these type of people. They don't, they're missing. Okay. All right.
Sick of hearing about Trump,
That's
so
not the point
let's
of this
get back
video.
to history.
Why are we even getting political? Whatever.
Over time, Cannibal was transformed into cannibals in Spanish, which became cannibal in English. By the 16th century, cannibal became a general term for any group accused of eating human flesh. But the idea of humans eating humans was not invented by Columbus, nor the enemies of the Kalinago people. And we know this because of language. Many languages have words, phrases, and insults for cannibalistic behaviors. The term man-eater is found all over the globe, in French, Spanish, and Swahili. In some cases referring to a dominant or dangerous woman, someone capable of cruelty, or ruthless and corrupt leaders. Germanic and Norse languages have words like meaning man-eater, and the German
Menschenfresser,
referring to folklore, trolls, giants, ogres, cannibals, and child-eating monsters. The Wendigo Wendigo is a mythical man.
It's crazy how much linguistics can provide like insight just on life. I know there are a lot of like, cause I speak Spanish, like I study Spanish, so I know like there are certain words because they have Latin roots that I can figure out the meaning of them, and I've never heard the word, or like a word like, let me see. For example, like this Spanish word I've never seen before. This is Spain. This word originated from Spain. Come hombres. It literally translates to come hombres, eat men. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I would just look at that word and be like, I don't know what this is talking about, but it literally translates to eat men. So we could be talking about cannibalism right now.
The Wendigo is a mythical man-eating spirit or a cursed person who resorts to cannibalism.
Oh, the Wendigo. Did anybody else get like exposed to the Wendigo through the video game Until Dawn? That's a goated game. I only killed one player in Until Dawn. If you know, you know.
In Japanese, meaning man-eater, is used for demons, monsters, and even serial killers. In Mandarin Chinese, the phrase translates to eats human flesh without spitting out the bones. It describes a ruthless, greedy, and merciless person, used historically for tyrants and corrupt leaders. And we also see cannibalism used as an insult. In Spanish, this phrase means
eres peor que un caníbal. It means you are worse than a cannibal.
You're worse than a cannibal, used to imply that someone is inhumanely cruel or monstrous. Sometimes cannibalism is aligned with moral wrongdoing, like in Arabic, which translates to he eats his brother's flesh when he is dead. This comes from the Quran, and it refers to slander and gossip as being metaphorically equivalent to cannibalism. Deep in our folklore and mythology, demonic creatures and monsters eat humans for breakfast. Witches eat lost children. Vampires drink our blood. Zombies eat our brain.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not particularly interested in the realm or idea of cannibalism, but I do love zombie shit. So like Left 4 Dead was my introduction to zombies, and then I watched Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead when I was young, and I never looked back. I'm just like a zombie fanatic. That's just like when it comes to horror movies, that's my favorite genre of horror movie. It's my favorite, I ain't gonna say it's my favorite type of video game, but I love zombie video games. You know what I mean? That's just like my lane.
And hill people do whatever the hell hill people do. So no matter where you come from, it's clear that cannibalism has deep-rooted negative connotations, representing cruel and oppressive rulers, exploiters, savage and inhumane behavior, and moral corruption. But these are just stories, right? Associations between words and ideas. Calling a corrupt leader a man-eater is in most cases metaphorical, not literal. So what's literally wrong with eating humans?
This is what I've been waiting for the whole time. I want to see if there's like there's an answer. What's wrong with eating humans? I want an answer, not an idea. Not an opinion. It was disgusting. It was, you know what I'm saying? We're not supposed to do it. I don't want that. I want an answer. You know what I mean? Or at least a staunch philosophical reasoning. You know what I mean? Or something like that.
For 22% of the global population, all meat probably grosses you out anyway. But for the rest of us, you probably eat meat fairly regularly. And yet, if I served you a perfectly cooked, ethically sourced, seasoned to perfection steak of human meat, you'd probably be grossed out. And then you'd call the cops.
Yeah, but before I call the cops, I would sit and ask you the $1 million question. Who the fuck is this on my plate? Who is this on my plate?
The lateral sulcus, the insular cortex, is the part of our brains that is responsible for processing emotions, self-awareness, and importantly, disgust. When we see, smell, or even think about something that we find repulsive, like the smell of an unwashed belly button, the insular cortex lights up like a warning signal. From an evolutionary perspective, disgust exists to protect us from diseases and toxins. Most people know that when that 5-day-old Chinese food starts smelling bad, you probably shouldn't eat it. Let's face the consequences. It's the disgust response many of us have to things like decaying corpses and the bacteria that they harbor that stops us from eating them, so we don't get sick. When we think about cannibalism, our disgust reaction is more extreme.
All right, Chef, can you tell us what...
Okay, so that's interesting, and I love that is great information. But if that's the case, explain my disgust for hoes and Balloons popping. What is my insular cortex protecting me from right there?
3 potential secret ingredients.
This reaction is more extreme.
All right, chef, can you tell us what 3 potential secret ingredients might be found in the sausage?
Fish liver, human flesh, or shark?
No.
I mean, the secret ingredient is human flesh. It is.
No. I got 2 words for you. Hell no. All right. I don't know what they do in Germany, but we don't eat humans here. We kill them, but we don't eat them. Okay, dude. I'm 2 seconds from throwing this at you. I'm not eating that. No.
Perhaps we instinctively associate human flesh with disease and death, even if it's perfectly safe to eat. And why is that? In the early to mid 20th century, the foray people, indigenous to the highland of Papua New Guinea, became infamous due to an outbreak of a mysterious fatal disease known as kuru. Kuru translates to shaking or trembling in the foray language, referring to the uncontrollable tremors that victims experienced. Kuru is a neurodegenerative disease caused by prions, misfolded proteins that lead to sponge-like holes in brain tissue, i.e. brain damage. It's similar to mad cow disease and Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease in humans. Symptoms include loss of muscle control, sudden outbursts of pathological laughter, and cognitive decline leading to coma and death. And as if it's not scary enough to think about those symptoms, kuru has...
Wait, we get kuru from eating people? Like, that's... Holy shit. That is crazy. Side note, random thought. You know how dirty the human mouth... I don't even know why I just thought about this. You know how dirty a human mouth is? Like... If a dog bit us and broke skin versus another human biting us and breaking our skin, it is way more important, it is way more imperative that we go get the human bite tended to and treated and cleaned first. Because we are disgusting.
No cure and a 100% fatality rate, usually killing victims within a year. So why did the foray develop kuru? The foray practiced something called endo-cannibalism, meaning that they ate the flesh of their own dead as part of funeral.
Let me look up kuru disease. Kuru disease. A rare, incurable, and fatal brain disease caused by infectious misfolded proteins called prions. Let me see, is kuru eradicated? Kuru is practically eradicated with no new cases reported since the mid-2000s. That is fairly new. When was the last kuru, Jesus Christ, kuru case? 2009. Was that with the foray people? I don't know. I'll look into that later.
Called endo-cannibalism, meaning that they ate the flesh of their own dead as part of victims within a year. So why did the foray develop kuru? The foray practiced something called endo-cannibalism, meaning that they ate the flesh of their own dead as part of funerary rituals. Consuming their deceased relatives was an act of love and respect, allowing the spirit of the dead to live on within them. Unfortunately, at some point in time, someone's deceased loved one had developed a prion disease, likely due to a random genetic mutation.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay. So eating your loved ones so their spirits can carry on through the lives of the living. Like I said, without scientific... People will disagree with science anyway, even though science has strong evidence nowadays. But in a time where science was kind of not as strong, I could definitely see that having merit. We eat our dead so they can continue living. That sounds good to me. I can't even argue with that. I cannot argue with that.
Infectious prions concentrated in their brain and spinal cord and spread to their loved ones after they passed away. Each time these rituals were performed, the infectious prions transferred to more and more of the community. Women and children were more affected by kuru because they were the primary consumers of infected human brains, while men mostly ate muscle tissue, which had fewer infectious prions. Cooking the meat didn't help stop kuru because, unlike bacteria or viruses, prions are nearly indestructible. They don't break down with heat, digestion, or standard sterilization. Western scientists linked kuru with cannibalism in the 1950s and 60s, and the Papua New Guinea government banned the practice. Despite this, some foray continued to develop kuru for decades after the ban, and surprisingly, others developed a genetic resistance to prions, which scientists now study for insights into mad cow disease and Alzheimer's. While kuru was
Oh wow. So those people are necessary, like immune to prions? That could be, what if that's like the key to inching closer to like Alzheimer's cure. No, we need people with Kuru immunity to face Alzheimer's. That would be a crazy breakthrough. Okay, so is it like an automatic thing if you eat a human brain you're getting Kuru, or is it just like the high risk of getting Kuru, like depending on whose brain you're eating? Like is everyone a carrier, or is it just like specific people, certain people are carriers?
Officially recorded only among the foray, some researchers speculate that ancient civilizations that practice cannibalism may have faced similar prion diseases, like certain Neanderthals and ancestral Puebloans from the American Southwest. Some modern humans have genetic protections against prions, which scientists believe could indicate a history of cannibalism among their ancestors.
Oh my God. So you can't even really have pride in being immune to prions? Because that means your great-grandfather was a sick-ass man and ate a human brain. You can't even flaunt it. Hey bro, I'm immune to prions. My great-granddaddy was a fucking brain eater. Ew. Haha, he's allergic to prions. His family is fucking nasty.
There are other civilizations who have practiced cannibalism that don't seem to have any issues with things like Kuru disease. Once the story of Kuru became worldwide news, it may have helped reinforce a genetic aversion to eating humans over recent generations. Basically, we're more grossed out by cannibalism now because of the known medical risks. But disgust isn't just about what we eat. It also plays a role in moral judgment. Have you ever noticed how we use disgust-based language to describe things that we find morally wrong? Like, that behavior is revolting. He's a disgusting human being. I feel sick just thinking about it.
Tremendous goodies in the bag for women between the fertilization and all of the other things that we're talking about.
While physical disgust, also known as core disgust, is caused by physical or chemical stimuli, moral disgust is evoked by abstract violations of moral norms. Things that are generally taboo, like bestiality, incest, and theft, or extending to cultural and religious taboos, like homosexuality or skinny jeans. Pizarro and others...
All right. Let's stop it right there. I will say I own a couple pair of skinny jeans, and I think they look damn good. Okay, we can stop it right there. I feel personally attacked. I feel persecuted right now. We can stop right there with the skinny jean slander. Okay, I can do both. I have big parachute pants, and I have skinny jeans. Fuck you want from me? I can do both. All right.
Proposed something called the amplification hypothesis, which suggests that when people feel disgusted, they judge moral transgressions more harshly. It makes wrong things seem even more wrong. The links between emotions like disgust and our moral judgments is an ongoing area of research. But it begs the question.
The amplification hypothesis makes wrong things seem more wrong. So is this like, okay, no fat shaming over here. This is a safe space. No fat shaming over here, right? But is this like, you know how people say if an overweight person does something gross, like, for example, fart, right? It's more gross than if a non-overweight person did the same exact thing, because it's amplified by what we already deem as quote-unquote gross. No fat shaming. Safe space here, okay?
Just that when people feel disgusted, they judge moral transgressions more harshly. It makes wrong things seem even more wrong. The links between emotions like disgust and our moral judgments is an ongoing area of research. But it begs the question, is our rejection of cannibalism really about morals and ethics? Or is it just our insular cortex saying yuck loud enough?
I'm not gonna lie, I do enjoy the fact that like we have to question genuinely why cannibalism is like frowned upon and why that answer is still kind of unclear and not as simple as because we're not supposed to. Because if you ask, like I said, if you ask random people, they either say it's disgusting or immoral. But if you like ask them why, they would be pretty stumped, I feel like. And they wouldn't be able to give you like a logical reasoning, more so than just like an emotional response to the question, you know?
If we're going to try to look at cannibalism beyond our gut reactions and cultural bias, we might need a little help from philosophy. Moral philosophy, or ethics, is the study of what is right and wrong, good and bad, and how we're supposed to act. If you can bother to get through the reading material, philosophy can provide frameworks for thinking about moral dilemmas that affect us personally, but also as a society. If you don't know anything about philosophy, don't worry. All you need to know is is that there are three major schools of thought and about philosophy. Don't worry. All you need to know is that there.
So we got consequentialism, the morality of an action depends on its outcomes. Deontology, some actions are inherently right or wrong regardless of consequences. Virtue ethics, morality is about cultivating good character and values. Okay, I think I agree with virtue ethics just by default, but if I had to choose between consequentialism and deontology, I would say, even though each has its pros and cons, they both have pros and cons, things I agree with, things I don't. I'll probably say deontology. Because if you were trying to shoot somebody and ended up shooting the person behind them that was trying to kill him, I'm not going to say your actions were right just because you saved the life of the person you were trying to kill. I think that you were wrong, but the result aligned with that of the right action. But you didn't want to do that and you didn't try to do that. And that's if we're talking about how moral an action is. If we're saying how good an action is, then consequentialism could be on the table. But how moral an action is, I think, is more based on intent than a result.
Major schools of thought, and philosophers rarely agree on anything.
That's why everyone hates moral philosophy professors.
I think philosophy works best when it's relatable. So here's a thought experiment. You're trapped in the Arctic. No food, no plants, just a frozen corpse. What do you do? Even if you've never experienced true hunger, I think most of us can agree that there's a sort of survival logic to resorting to cannibalism in a situation like this. Utilitarians like Jeremy Bentham would probably say that if eating the dead meant maximizing survival, then it's the morally right thing to do. But what about cannibalism when it's not for survival, like ritualistic or cultural cannibalism? Well, who's to say that the foray people who practiced endo-cannibalism out of respect for their deceased loved ones were doing anything morally wrong? If the practice is accepted within their own cultural context, how can we judge it by the standards of ours? Cultural relativism says that if morality is shaped by culture, then there's no universal right or wrong. But on the other hand, there's many things that older societies have accepted that modern ethics, public health, and human rights laws simply can't.
See, okay, I think that's where things get a little sticky, and I don't know if there will ever be a solution to the conversation or if something is morally wrong when we use cultural relativism. Because I think we want universal rights and wrongs just to escape from nuance. You know what I mean? Like, things would be so much simpler if we didn't have to be so nuanced and things weren't so complex. But we have to learn to deal in a nuanced and complex world. So to simplify, it's like the use of the N-word. Let's go there. Some people want the word abolished in order to create a universal right, whereas black people are like, no, because of the cultural context. You won't tell us that us using it is wrong, and therefore we're not gonna stop using it. And on top of that, we're not okay with you using it, and that's cultural relativism for you. You have to take the cultural context of a situation in order to make a proper judgment towards it. You can't try to make this universal rule when there are subcategories of humans. We're not monolithic, therefore we can't have monolithic thought, monolithic rules. It just wouldn't work out like that.
In early 2001, Armin Muse, a German computer repair technician, posted an online ad which read, "Looking for a well-built 18 to 30-year-old to be slaughtered and then consumed." After receiving several...
What? Did I zone out? What the fuck did I just hear?
A technician posted an online ad which read, "Looking for a well-built 18 to 30-year-old to be slaughtered and then consumed." After receiving several responses that didn't work out, Armin made contact with 43-year-old Bernd Brandes, an engineer from Berlin who agreed to the act. On March 9th, they both engaged in what could be called consensual cannibalism before Muse stabbed and killed Brandes, storing parts of his body in his freezer to eat over the next several months.
Several months? Jesus Christ. Question. Does this count on like the dude that volunteered to get eaten? Does this count as suicide? This is weird as fuck. Does this count as suicide? This is one of those situations I believe this should be deemed as universally wrong on both ends, and no one should disagree. No cultural relativism, no nuance, no complexity, none of that shit. This is wrong on so many levels, on every level. On every level.
Like,
you know, I guess this could be assisted suicide, right? No, I don't know.
One
I
of
don't know.
Muse's ads was
I don't know
reported
about
to
that one.
police and he was arrested. Despite the consensual agreement between the two men, prosecutors argued that Brandes was too mentally unstable to consent. Eventually, Muse was convicted for murder and sentenced to life in prison, where he has expressed remorse and is now a vegetarian. And morally speaking, this is a tricky one.
He's now a vegetarian. You need your ass whooped. That feels like such a mockery. If I got eaten and then my family was in court and the guy was like, hey y'all, I'm a vegetarian now, it's okay, I'm remorseful. Okay, bro. Okay. Alright. Oh, fucking K. That just pissed me off, the thought of that.
Legally, Germany has no specific laws against cannibalism. So why can't someone consent to being eaten? Libertarians like John Stuart Mill believed in the sovereignty of the individual to make decisions over his or her own body and mind. So if both parties consent, it's their right to do so, right? But Hobbes might disagree, because even with consent, some acts like cannibalism could undermine the moral fabric of society. According to social contract theory, Muse's actions violated the social contract, the rules that we all agree to, the freedoms we give up so that we can live in a society without violence, anarchy, and moral chaos. If people could legally agree to be killed, could that weaken the state's ability to enforce laws against murder? Consent might not be enough if it endangers the order of society. And when I think about the social contract, I don't just think about what we need legally to hold society together. I think about what society, or being evolved creatures, means to us as beings. It's a survival mechanism. We rely on a functioning society to keep us safe, fed, educated, and human. Without certain rules and structures, a certain level of decency and respect for our fellow humans, shit don't work. Our idea of cannibalism seems to sit at
I guess, I don't know. I'm gonna simplify her words, even though I'm not gonna cover everything she's saying. But like I kind of like mentioned before, my whole hypothesis of why I would say like cannibalism is wrong, or why we say cannibalism is wrong, I think it adds way too much opportunity for nuance and justification when dealing with something as heinous as cannibalism. Like, let's just agree that cannibalism should be outlawed, even though we can't pinpoint 100% why cannibalism is philosophically wrong. So just so we don't run into any slippery slopes, let's just outlaw it, because it could be dangerous. And we would run into cases like my man that ate my other guy, even though they both consensually agreed to it. We want to cut we just want to cut all of that shit out, the idea of that even being a possibility. Do that shit illegally. Don't do that shit because you might think that you're getting through a loophole and that that this is okay in anybody's eyes.
the border of our idea of our humanity. It's often depicted in movies and literature as this final tipping point into a dystopian hellscape where we don't care about each other and are only out for ourselves. Engaging in cannibalism transforms you into something that isn't quite human anymore. You are barbaric and uncivilized. And I wonder if this has something to do with funerals. Humans have long distinguished ourselves from animals by how we treat our dead. Unlike most other animals, we don't just leave dead people lying around, we ritualize the process and mourn those who pass. The burial of the dead is considered one of the earliest signs of human culture for archaeologists, dating back at least 100,000 years. Rituals like mummification, cremation, and burial reflects part of our humanity as civilized social beings. How we treat corpses represents how we see human life itself, as valuable and worthy of protection. Many ancient societies believed that a bad death, like a lack of a burial or dying in disgrace, led to an unrested spirit or eternal punishment. Even today, unclaimed bodies, mass graves, and war atrocities are particularly horrible for us to think about. So when it comes to cannibalism, or the...
I wonder if like any civilizations or societies look at our rituals like burials or cremations as like this kind of atrocity. Like the people that eat their dead, I wonder because they have that endo-cannibalism where it's like, no, we're gonna eat our dead spirits to keep them going. I wonder if they look at us bury our dead or cremate our dead and like you're damning their soul, or you're like destroying the soul so it can no longer live on. I wonder if they look at our rituals like, oh no, that's some bullshit y'all got going on. The same way we kind of look at endo-cannibalism.
Desecration of a corpse, the act itself directly challenges what it means for us to be civilized human beings. It's a regression back into savage beasts, a sign of moral degradation, and perhaps most importantly, a hallmark of societal breakdown, which is one of our most important fears. Of course, not all civilizations treat their dead the same, and what we find civilized or barbaric changes over time, but the need to honor our dead remains constant. As long as we value human life and death in this way and culturally refuse to accept otherwise, I think cannibalism will remain taboo. At least for now.
I think that's very important that it does so. This was a great video. I enjoyed
Probably
it.
for the best.
We didn't find an answer, but I don't think there's an answer to find. And that's okay. I think that's the beauty of philosophy and thinking. We won't always come to a clear conclusion, but now we know more about cannibalism. That was dope. Shout out to her. I'm gonna check out more of her videos.